What's up guys, this is Desm101. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a couple games from a series that you probably haven't heard of, and that's Cobra Command. The games we're going to check out are from the NES and from the Sega CD. These are some pretty interesting games from Data East. Yeah, that's right, Cobra Command. Not Cobra Commander or anything that's G.I. Joe related. Cobra Command is actually a little known game series from Data East. The Cobra in the title is likely referring to a Cobra helicopter by Bell Helicopter that was a popular attack helicopter debuting in 1967. Perhaps you may recognize it better if I told you that the helicopter from Cobra Command seen in the opening of Double Dragon 2. Yes, that's the same aircraft, as confirmed by Yoshihisa Kishimoto, the director of Cobra Command, who also directed the arcade versions of Double Dragon 1 and 2. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Cobra Command originally started out as a Laserdisc FMV game in 1984. It's also known in Japan as Thunderstorm. It was actually a conversion kit for Dragon's Lair or Space Ace. In this title, you play in the pilot's point of view in the helicopter cockpit as you fly around multiple locations fighting enemy aircraft and making daring maneuvers to evade death. It's a pretty fun and exciting game with that classic 80s anime feeling, done by Toei Animation, and was known for some of the earliest examples of Laserdisc-based arcade games to feature hand-drawn animation, similar to Dragon's Lair. We actually got a port of this arcade game in 1992 on the Sega CD from Wolf Team, and later it was ported to the Sega Saturn and PS1 in 1995. I would personally definitely rank this up with some of the better FMV games out there. While it is still unforgiving and forces memorization, there is a level of fun and charm to the art style and gameplay. It's similar to Road Avenger if you've played that one. That also previously directed by Yoshihisa Kishimoto and developed by Data East. From the cockpit you can use crosshairs to direct your fire. You can fire machine guns or missiles with unlimited ammo. At certain times a box will appear around a target, meaning you will need to destroy it, usually very fast before they get a chance to shoot you first. A directional arrow will appear in the bottom box of your heads-up display, indicating when you need to press the D-pad to make the aircraft move. It's kind of strange at first, since the target cursor moves in the direction while you're trying to dodge. Instead of a single press, you need to hold the button down until the yellow arrow disappears. This will guarantee you that the action will take place. Another notification for the type of action required will display at the top of the heads-up display as the action plays out. You will need to practice a while to get the timing and button presses right. Like most FMV games, it's kind of easy to burn out after a while if you keep dying at one spot. There is a ton going on at times, and the deaths can be super unfair, but I did find myself unable to stop giving it another try after each game over. You do get 2 continues, and you can set the lives up to 5, which I do highly recommend. There are many sections where the game flows smooth with the animation and action. You get a semblance of you're really controlling the helicopter. It does feel that way sometimes. It's a sign of a good FMV in my opinion. Fast forward to 1988, and Data East releases another arcade game with the same title, Cobra Command. Only now it's a horizontal shooter like Gradius. I don't remember seeing either of these games in arcades growing up. But this one looks a lot like other side-scrolling shooters at the time. There is not much that sticks out about it aside from the fact that you're a helicopter viewed from the side, similar to Airwolf, which came out the previous year. In this Cobra Command game, you travel to various war-torn areas that have 3 or 4 stages apiece, with a mini-boss in each area. The game is fairly challenging, with bullets flying fast and large enemy craft filling up the screen. While it's not a bad game, it's simply not as polished as other games around the time such as R-Type and Gradius 2. The same year, Data East released a sort of port for the 1988 arcade game to the NES. Now this is where I found out about Cobra Command. So my good friend had a copy. I used to love going to his house to play this game. It wasn't the most popular game in his collection, but it was like a deep-cut NES title at the time. I have actually previously briefly mentioned this game in my obscure NES games video from a while back. Anyway, this game takes the series into some new directions. It plays more like a version of Choplifter on steroids. Your main objective is to go to the same war-torn areas as the arcade game and rescue a specific number of hostages. The thing is that many of the hostages are hidden throughout the levels, so you have to find and destroy specific structures in the level to open a new passage to get the hostages out. It can be tricky in some places to find the hidden areas, and you will find yourself gritting your teeth navigating through tight spaces and trying to dodge all the enemy attacks and homing missiles and stuff. After rescuing all the hostages from the 6 stages, you have to go into the enemy base to fight a final boss. But this game isn't all good. You've probably heard about this game in passing, that it plays weird or that the controls suck. Now, I certainly don't think that the controls suck, but I will admit that they are pretty unconventional compared to most 2D shooters. Your chopper flies more like a real one, meaning when moving forward, the aircraft nose is pointing diagonally down at the ground. This can be a little strange at first to get used to, but it's pretty handy for firing quickly at enemies above or below you, by moving forwards or backwards. The control aspect that is cumbersome is the way that the screen scrolls. So you have to go into the enemy base and fly in both directions. That means you can turn your helicopter around by pressing the start button, but the screen edge will only scroll ahead of you in the direction that you're facing. In some cases, if you don't scroll the screen enough at a certain spot, it can mean a loss of life. This can also be helpful though. There are tricky spots where projectiles will be coming fast from a silo at the ground level. Flying backwards through these makes it essential to pass. There are not really stage bosses in this game like there were in the arcade version. Each level has 2 hidden bases where you must enter and rescue sets of hostages. The total number is given before each stage. At these pickup spots, you will encounter special enemy vehicles equipped with missiles and cannons, which guard the hostages and will respawn after you pick up 3 hostages in a row. So it's a wash, rinse, repeat kind of thing each time you get to these pickup spots. The game presents a very good challenge, even though your helicopter can take a few hits. The first shot or two seems to absorb into your armor, but one hit too many and the craft will begin to lose altitude, dragging downward while the engine spews flames. It looks really cool. One more hit and that's it. If you're in this state and you happen to land on an enemy depot, you can actually get repaired in addition to upgrades. Yes, that's right. One of the very cool, helpful features in this game is you can land on enemy bases in the level and repair and unlock new weapons. Now, I didn't know about this the first few times when I played the game, and it really helps add depth and excitement to the upgrades, but the game doesn't do much to give you any clues that you're supposed to land there, or even where you're supposed to land. In the pause menu, you have a list of your equipment loadout on the helicopter, as well as the ability to talk to the hostages and view how many you need to pick up, as well as your hit points and lives left. And these would have been helpful on the main screen, in my opinion, because you have to go deep into the menu to even find your hit points left. The upgrades will speed up your engine, power up your guns and your missiles, add armor, and even give a ladder to allow the hostages to climb up into your helicopter more quickly. The levels give a nice variety of areas to play through as you rescue the hostages. Once you get to the South China Sea, things get pretty hairy, and as a kid I often got stuck here. Like I mentioned before, the bases get harder and harder to find and break into, so you will need to play through the levels a few times. Get creative looking for the hidden spots, or watch a walkthrough. That might be a better suggestion. Minor backtracking is required in a couple spots. Once you complete all stages, you make it to the final level in a slightly different helicopter. You have to navigate through a tough area with new enemies until you have to face the final boss. The music is okay, but it's not really a standout. It's another area of the game where it could have been improved and add more polish to. But it's at least a decent variety of songs that are available, so it doesn't get too repetitive or grating on the ears. Similar with the sound effects here, there's not much to love about it, but I do like when the hostages say thank you in that classic 8-bit kind of sound. So what do I think of the Cobra Command games? Well, I think the Sega CD version is a great one to add to any Sega CD fan's collection. If you're a fan of FMV games but don't care for the poor video compression, I do recommend checking out PS1 or Saturn versions, although I haven't played it myself. The NES game is a real fun shooter if you're looking for something different and enjoy a few rounds of the classic Choplifter, as I do still to this day. The arcade games are hard to come by, and if you're curious, maybe give it a go for the 1988 release on MAME, but don't expect to be blown away by the quality. And that's going to wrap it up for today, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you have a good one.